There are moments in life when you begin to realize that the real battle is not outside of you but within you. It's not the world that keeps you trapped. It's your habits, your thoughts, your attachments. And just like a heavy chain, they silently pull you down day after day. But what if I told you that freedom is not something you search for? It is something you remove. That everything weighing on your spirit can be released, not by force, but by awareness. Today, I want to show you how to cleanse your inner world, strengthen your mind, and walk forward with clarity and courage. Because once the mind is free, nothing can hold you anymore. Awareness is the first quiet doorway that opens before any real change can happen. And yet, most people walk through life without ever noticing that such a doorway even exists. They wake up, repeat familiar routines, react to the same triggers, carry the same emotional burdens, and then wonder why life keeps unfolding in similar patterns. But transformation does not begin with doing more. It begins with seeing more. It begins with gently turning your attention inwards and asking, what is truly happening inside me? Now, when you start to observe yourself, not with judgment, but with curiosity, you begin to recognize that the thoughts you identify with are not you. They are simply movements of the mind. You start to notice that anger doesn't suddenly appear out of nowhere. There is always a thought behind it. Fear doesn't control you without permission. There's always a story you are telling yourself. And stress does not fall from the sky. It is created by resistance to what already is. Awareness is the light that reveals these patterns. This awareness is not dramatic. It is calm. It is steady. It watches like a still lake reflects the sky. The more you practice it, the more clearly you see your life. You start to recognize how often you react instead of respond, how frequently you cling to comfort, how deeply old wounds still echo in your decisions. And with this recognition, something powerful happens. The automatic nature of your behavior loosens. The chains do not disappear instantly, but they become visible. And what you can't see, you can eventually free yourself from. Most people try to change their lives from the outside first. They change environments. They change relationships. They change jobs. But if the same mind remains untouched, the same problems simply appear again in new forms. Awareness reverses this direction. Instead of trying to fix the world, you begin to refine the one experiencing it. You begin to understand that suffering grows strongest in darkness, in unobserved corners of the mind, and the simple act of seeing clearly is often enough to begin solving it. Awareness is also humility. It is accepting that you do not always act from wisdom, that sometimes you are driven by fear, ego, or insecurity. But there is no shame in this realization. In fact, it is the beginning of maturity. Because only when you acknowledge what is real can you begin to move beyond it. Without awareness, you repeat the past. With awareness, you create space for the future. And slowly, life begins to feel lighter. Not because circumstances change, but because your relationship to them does. You are no longer lost inside every thought. You are the one watching. You become grounded, centered, present, and from presence, true transformation unfolds. Not as a forceful effort, but as a natural evolution of a mind that has finally opened its eyes. When we look at the world outside of us, we often believe that it is shaping us, controlling us, determining how we feel and who we become. But the truth is much quieter and much more profound. The world you experience is a reflection of your inner state. If your mind is scattered, life feels overwhelming. If your heart is heavy, the world appears dark. And when your inner space becomes calm and grounded, suddenly, the same world feels different, lighter, more open, more supportive. Nothing around you changed. Only the one who is looking did. Think for a moment about two people walking through the same situation. One is filled with fear, doubt, and resentment. The other carries patience, clarity, and trust. Even though they face the same circumstances, their experience is completely different. This shows us something essential. Your life is not defined by what happens to you, but by the state in which you meet it. And this is why inner work is not optional. It is fundamental. When the mind is filled with confusion and emotional noise, it projects that confusion onto the world. Every challenge becomes personal. Every obstacle becomes a threat. Every mistake becomes a reason for self-punishment. But as you cultivate clarity, discipline, and presence, your perception softens. You begin to recognize that life is not attacking you. Life is responding to you. Your energy, your thoughts, your attitude, they all ripple outward, shaping your interactions, your relationships, your opportunities. This is why complaining rarely changes anything. It only strengthens the belief that you are powerless. But when you turn inward and refine your inner world, your outer world gradually reorganizes itself. You speak differently. You behave differently. You attract different experiences because you are no longer acting from fear or lack. You begin to live from a grounded center instead of a restless mind. And this alignment does not mean avoiding difficulty. Life will still present challenge as uncertainties and moments of loss. But when your inner state is steady, you stop collapsing into those moments. Instead, you meet them with awareness and dignity. You realize that every situation is not simply happening to you, it is also happening for your growth. This understanding brings strength. It brings responsibility. It reminds you that you are not just a passenger in your life. You are also the craftsman of your inner world. So the real question is not, how can I control life? The real question is, how can I cultivate a state of being that remains clear, compassionate, and conscious, no matter what life brings? When your inner world becomes peaceful, the outer world can no longer disturb you in the same way. And when your thoughts and actions align with this inner peak, your life naturally begins to reflect it back to you. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people think of it as restriction, as something rigid that removes freedom or joy from life. But real discipline is not about punishment. It is about respect. It is the way you show commitment to your own growth, even on days when motivation is missing and distractions seem louder than your purpose. Discipline is spiritual strength expressed through action. It is the bridge between who you are right now and who you have the potential to become. Every time you choose to sit in stillness, to breathe consciously, to move your body with awareness, you are training more than muscles. You are training the mind. You are teaching it patience. You are teaching it stability. You are teaching it not or react impulsively to every thought or emotion that appears. And over time, this training shapes your entire life. Because the mind you cultivate in practice becomes the mind you carry into every challenge, every conversation, every decision. Without discipline, life is ruled by habit and impulse. You feel tired, so you stop. You feel discouraged, so you give up. You feel afraid, so you avoid. Slowly, your world becomes smaller. But with discipline, something different happens. You begin to act from intention rather than mood. You still feel tired, but you continue gently. You still feel discouraged, but you remain committed. You still feel fear, but you move forward anyway. And every time you do, inner strength grows, quietly, consistently. This strength is not loud. It does not seek attention. It is found in small, repeated choices that slowly transform the way you live. Waking up a little earlier to cultivate clarity. Taking a moment to breathe before reacting. Choosing patience when the mind wants to rush. Honoring the body instead of neglecting it. None of these actions are dramatic, but together they form the foundation of a disciplined life, and eventually, discipline. Nay becomes less about effort and more about alignment. It is no longer something you force yourself to do. It becomes the natural expression of who you are becoming. You begin to see that discipline is actually a form of self-love. Because when you commit to training your mind and caring for your body, you are saying to yourself, my life matters, my energy matters, my purpose matters. This mindset transforms the way you meet the world. There will always be moments when the path feels difficult. There will be days when resistance is strong and the mind looks for excuses. But it is exactly in those moments that discipline becomes sacred, not for the sake of achievement, but for the sake of presence and integrity. You continue not because it is easy, but because you know who you want to be on the inside. And with time, inner discipline becomes outer stability. The heart becomes steadier, the mind becomes clearer, the spirit becomes harder to shake. And this is when you begin to realize that true strength is not about controlling the world. It is about mastering yourself again and again, one conscious step at a time. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Many people think it means giving up, withdrawing, or becoming indifferent. But true letting go is not cold or passive. It is deeply conscious. It is the recognition that much of our suffering comes from clinging to things that are already changing, already leaving, already meant to pass. We hold on to memories, identities, expectations, regrets, and each one becomes a weight we carry and the mind. Over time, those weights become so familiar that we forget what it feels like to live lightly. Notice how often the mind tries to control life. It wants people to act a certain way. It wants circumstances to stay comfortable. It wants certainty, approval, and guarantees. But life itself does not operate according to our preferences. It moves in cycles. Things begin, things end, people enter, people leave. Opportunities arise and fade. And when we resist this natural flow, tension appears inside us. Letting go is the practice of softening that resistance. It is the art of saying, I will participate fully, but I will not cling. This does not mean detaching from love or responsibility. In fact, it allows you to love more honestly because love is no longer based on fear of loss. It allows you to work with more dedication because your worth is not tied to outcomes. It allows you to experience life fully while remaining grounded in inner stability. You stop fighting reality and begin cooperating with it. Look at the moments in your life where pain repeated itself. Often it was not the situation alone that created suffering. It was the attachment around it. The attachment to how things should have been. The attachment to the past remaining unchanged. The attachment to an image of yourself that no longer fits who you are becoming. Letting go is an invitation to acknowledge, this chapter taught me what it needed to teach me, and now I release it with gratitude, instead of dragging it behind me. This release does not always happen instantly. Sometimes it is a gentle, ongoing practice. A reminder to breathe when the mind tightens. A reminder to loosen the grip when fear rises. A reminder that nothing real can be lost. Only illusions fall away. And with each small act of surrender, the spirit becomes lighter, clearer, more at peace. Letting go is not weakness. Weakness is being controlled by emotions you refuse to face. Strength is looking honestly, accept fully, and choosing freedom anyway. And when you learn to trust the unfolding of life, you begin to discover a quiet confidence. You no longer chase, force, or beg the world to cooperate with you. You move with it. You learn from it. You allow it to change you in healthy ways. And slowly, a deep inner calm replaces constant struggle. You realize that every ending is simply an invitation into a new beginning, and every release creates space for something wiser to arise within you. The body is not separate from the mind or the spirit. It is the vessel through which you experience every moment of your life. Yet very often, people ignore it, abuse it, or treat it as an afterthought. They drive it until exhaustion, neglect rest, feed it without awareness, and then feel surprised when the mind becomes restless and heavy. But the body is constantly speaking, through tension, through fatigue, through discomfort, through energy. And when you begin to listen, you realize that caring for the body is not vanity or luxury. It is an essential part of your spiritual path. Every breath you take influences your inner state. When the breath is shallow, the mind becomes unsettled. When the breath is deep and conscious, the mind becomes calm and focused. Movement, too, is not just physical exercise. It is communication with your own life force. When you move with awareness, you release stored emotions, soften mental rigidity, and reconnect with the present moment. The body becomes a bridge back to yourself. If the body is tense, the mind will not relax easily. If the body is tired, clarity becomes difficult. And when the body is neglected for long enough, even simple G's begin to feel overwhelming. This is why balance matters. Not perfection, not obsession, just a respectful, steady relationship with the physical form that carries you through this world. Honoring the body does not mean chasing extreme fitness or controlling every detail of diet and routine. It means learning to live in harmony, eating in a way that nourishes rather than numbs, resting before burnout forces you to stop, moving not only to look different, but to feel more alive. Treating your body as a temple means recognizing that it houses your awareness. It is sacred because your life is expressed through it. And when the body becomes balanced, something shifts. The mind grows lighter. Emotions become easier to observe instead of being drowned inside them. You begin to feel grounded, floating away into endless thoughts, but anchored in the present moment through sensation and breath. This grounding creates resilience. Instead of being pushed around by stress or fear, you develop a stable center within yourself. There is also humility in caring for the body. You realize it has limits, it needs rhythm, it ages, it changes. And instead of fighting these truths, you learn or move gracefully with them. You treat your body not as a machine to be driven, but as a living companion to be guided with wisdom. When your physical, mental, and spiritual dimensions begin to align, life no longer feels fragmented. There is a sense of harmony. Actions become intentional, rest becomes meaningful, presence deepens. And the more you respect this vessel, the more capable it becomes of supporting your growth, your clarity, and your purpose. Because when the body is honored, the spirit finally has room to breathe. Freedom is a word many people use, but few truly understand. Most imagine it as escaping responsibilities, avoiding discomfort, or removing all obstacles from life. But real freedom is something much deeper. It is not about changing the world outside of you. It is about transforming the way you relate to it. When the mind is driven by fear, anger, or desire, you may appear free on the outside but remain trapped on the inside. Your actions are pulled by emotion. Your peace is dependent on circumstances, and your happiness is fragile. True freedom begins when your inner world becomes aligned, when your thoughts, words, and actions grow from clarity instead of confusion. Think about the moments when you felt most unsettled. Often it was not the situation itself that imprisoned you, but your reaction to it. Expectations, attachments, unresolved pain, these are the silent strings pulling at you. When you start living with awareness, discipline, and letting go, those strings gradually loosen. You begin to act consciously instead of reacting automatically. You begin to choose responses grounded in wisdom rather than habit, and slowly the emotional storms that once controlled you lose their power. This is inner alignment, a state where your values guide your actions, your heart remains steady, and your mind stays clear even in uncertainty. This alignment does not mean becoming emotionless. It means learning to experience emotions without drowning in them. You can feel sadness without collapsing into despair. You can feel anger without becoming destructive. You can feel fear without running away. When you stop resisting your inner world and instead breathe through it, emotions become teachers rather than masters. They reveal where healing is needed, where attachments still exist, where growth is waiting to happen. And as this maturity develops, you begin to notice a quiet shift. The world no longer dictates your worth. Success does not inflate you. Failure does not destroy you. Opinions do not define you. You move through life with a grounded presence. You speak with intention. You listen with openness. You live with purpose instead of drifting. This is what it means to be aligned. Your inner compass becomes stable, and no external storm can fully shake it. Such freedom also carries responsibility. When you realize that inner alignment shapes your reality, you no longer blame constantly. You no longer wait for others to change. Instead, you refine yourself. You choose honesty over convenience. You choose compassion over ego. You choose growth over comfort. And these choices slowly sculpt your character into something strong and sincere. In this space, life does not become perfect, but it becomes meaningful. Challenges still arise, but you meet them with steadiness. Uncertainty still exists, but you walk through it with trust. And your journey is no longer about escaping life, but about participating fully while remaining deeply rooted inside yourself. That is true freedom, moving through the world without losing yourself.